Alright, this one's going to be chapter 4, although I should probably take the time right now to to laugh at the fact and realize that, you don't realize the beats your story takes until you have to read it aloud to a microphone. And I don't think I realized how much the first, 6 chapters of this thing are just a blatant, ridiculous author insert, or just how quickly the thing moves on, or just how much I can actually embarrass myself in how many pages? 260, I think. Yeah, 255 pages. How much I could possibly embarrass myself in front of everybody. But, thanks for checking in. I appreciate people listening to this. So we'll start this now. Chapter 4, The Great Stitch-Up. Chemistry was my favorite subject, and the one that I excelled at. There were a few factors which contributed to this. The first was that I didn't study for it, so I had no reason to hate it. The second being that Miss Gordon was, without a doubt, the best teacher I'd had in all of my schooling. Miss Gordon was young and cool by her own accord. She was easy to approach, empathized with our problems, and actually cared for the mental well-being of her students. The course she taught was tough, but she made it easy. Her diagrams were perfectly built for my brain, and her wording was always what made the concepts click. Miss Gordon also had a more extensive knowledge of comic books, literature, movies, and pop culture than any kid or teacher in the whole school. So in the second week of classes, when Miss Gordon walked into the room with her new engagement ring, its diamond glimmer casting all the girls' eyes in envy, the biggest I'd ever seen, we all couldn't help but be excited and simultaneously disappointed that she wouldn't be our shared wife. She was swamped by the girls in the class, who piled around her to get a glimpse at the mighty jewel on its golden perch. They launched their grubby hands upon it to feel the stone, with the permission of Miss Gordon, of course, like a swarm of rats. Natalie, who was also in my chemistry class, sat uninterested with the boys. I persuaded her to accompany me as I had a look myself. I always loved diamonds. As a kid, going through shopping centres with Mum, I'd find a way to the jewellery stores just to stare at the glimmering stones. They were mesmerising, not just in the way that they looked, but the way that they were. There was something so neat about diamonds. I crawled past the ravenous crowd of teenage romantics to the beautiful hand of Miss Gordon. I rubbed my anxious finger across the shining stone. This wasn't a diamond. That's not a diamond, I said my thought aloud, without thinking about what I was saying. The lunatic crowd of women immediately stopped their mad raving to stare at me, their spirits shattered, and a sense of rage building between them. "What was that, James?" Miss Gordon asked sweetly. Although she'd heard me loud and clear, my cheeks flushed red all around me, teeth were born ready for my answer. "That's not a diamond," I repeated meekly. The crowd remained hushed. Can't you feel it when you touch it?" I said. "It's like the difference between a grey lead pencil and a coloured pencil. It's missing that extra kick." Evidently no one had any idea what I was talking about. "Why would you say that, James?" Susie asked me. Suddenly, the whole crowd was in an uproar. Natalie's girl senses kicked in and she dragged me out from underneath the pile of screaming women and back into my seat. Miss Gordon's face went red. "Leave him alone, girls," Miss Gordon said. "His magic finger might be wrong, but I'm not sure that it is." She shrunk into her shell. Everybody returned to their seats, but projected hate upon me with their scornful eyes. I felt guilty for the duration of the class, and continued to feel guilty afterwards. I had to make it up to Miss Gordon. I could do something nice for her, to just show her that I meant well at least. "I don't quite understand what happened," Natalie said to me at recess. "How did you even know? Why would you say anything?" "I don't know," I whined. "On both counts, really." I sat down defeated. On the wall of the quadrangle, Natalie sat up next to me. "I mean, don't you just know when a diamond is a diamond?" "No?" Natalie quizzed. "Oh, come on. It's like how red is different to burgundy. It just is." "Sure," Natalie hummed. "You are a strange boy, "Yes, and strange things tend to happen to me," I agreed. "Maybe you should just make her a sorry card," Natalie suggested at recess. "Or a happy engagement one." "Or," I pondered, "do both, but leave it as a surprise for her. Like a message when she opens a computer, something she totally doesn't expect." "That sounds difficult," Natalie mused. "Why would your mind jump to that idea first?" "Because I saw it on a show last night," I said, reminiscing my night spent avoiding language homework, my feet nestled high in front of the television. Simone had even joined me. It was the first night in a while she'd spent out of the study, her nerd dungeon. Except in the show, the boy left it for his crush. Anyway, I'll make it up. Then I'll take the image to Tom. He'll figure it out. I'd arranged to meet Tom in the school's library computer labs the next day at recess. I brought Natalie along with me as an opportunity to show her around the place. The library was in the northeast quarter of the senior school block of buildings. A large, north-facing glass wall opened the reading area to the light of day. In the windowless back section were the rows of computers. Tom sat in front of a computer whose monitor faced the back wall. His red hair was a mess and his tie only half done. He had with him a muscular boy with an ugly face and a serious attitude. Reese Cameron. I begrudgingly made my way over to him, not wanting to walk within 10 feet of Reese. "James," Tom greeted with open arms. "And you bought the new girl. You know," he addressed Natalie. "They're strict on the uniform, but not that strict, although you wouldn't learn that from James." I glanced over to Natalie. She wore her hair in a high ponytail with a white branded school ribbon. Her dress went down to the knee, not a millimetre higher. Her socks were pulled up. I guess I hadn't even thought it was odd. When I turned back to Tom, he pulled me in. "I thought you said you'd come alone, man," he whispered to me, becoming serious. "I need to show her around. I thought you said it would just be you and me in here. What's Reese doing?" I asked him, glaring. "Hey, I get more than one business proposal in a day. Reese is actually paying me," he winked. "Now," he said to Natalie to hear as well, "take a seat. I'm here to kill two birds with one stone. Just sit back and relax." Natalie and I pulled up a chair and gathered around the monitor. I made sure to stay on the opposite end of Tom from Reese, and I kept Natalie the furthest from him. Tom rustled through his bag while Reese and I eyed each other off in our peripherals. "You know, James," Reese said through his thin lips, "the girls want to tear you apart after how you embarrassed Miss Gordon. Them beating you up is about the most action you'll ever see." "Shut up, Reese," I groaned. "Why do you need Tom's help? Too thick to find where you saved your files?" Before Reese could answer, Tom interjected, floppy disk in hand. "Reese might be computer illiterate, but so are you, compared to me," he said, "and he's paid me good money for something top secret." Tom inserted the disk into the drive. The computer buzzed, its black command screen popping up and sprinting through thousands of lines of code at once. "I wrote this myself, and when this baby reboots, we'll be kicked into the admin side of the system. From there, we can get some personal information about a few select teachers' accounts, then reboot as them, and alter some details." "Wow, you wrote that all yourself?" Natalie asked. "That's incredible." "It's nothing for Tom," I said. "He's a buff at this stuff." "Thanks, Nat. I try," he grinned, focusing on the lines of flying code. "Coding is better than insulting a teacher's engagement or needing to fix your grades so you can look smart enough to play footy." "Hey," Reese hit him in the shoulder. Tom did not waver. "Oops, sorry, man. Well, hey, you could have just studied like everyone else and not made me risk my reputation. Not that I'll ever get caught doing this. The IT guys here are total hacks, and not the good kind." The computer screen turned black, and it rebooted. It looked straight into the admin side. From there, Tom went to 2 folders. The first was that for Mr. Witherby, the second for Miss Gordon. In each, he executed some kind of command, which caused more code to run down the screen. "Okay, Reese first, given he's the paying customer," Tom said, and executed one of the files he just created. The computer logged out and back in, this time through Mr. Witherby's account. Tom searched through the files until he got to the grades for Mr. Witherby's Year 12 English class. He opened the spreadsheet. "I'm lucky that I'm only a few marks down," Reese said. "I'm sure he won't notice a change in some of my class tests, or maybe the essay." "Whatever you say, man," Tom said. "We can even it out over a few teachers. It's easy enough to open their accounts too." "No, I only need 3 extra marks," Reese said. "Just put 1 extra on the practice essay and, I don't know, 1 in each of those prose analysis." He pointed to the files, as if Tom couldn't work out what he meant. Tom simply smiled and nodded. "You're the boss," Tom said, and changed the marks accordingly. He noted the previous time of modification, and after saving the document, restored the modification date to its former value. "Okay, that was easy. Now for you, James," Tom said. "Did you make your card? Were my instructions about paint clear enough?" "No need to condescend, friend," I said, and pulled out my own floppy disk from my bag. "I can make pixel art. It's right here." Tom plugged it into the secondary slot and hacked his way over to Miss Gordon's account. He created an executable file which summoned the image to open it when she opened her computer next. "Somehow," he noted, "that was more difficult, but not by much." He grinned. "Have fun explaining how or why you made that one work when you next see Miss Gordon." "It's a nice gesture, okay?" I huffed, and I saw it on TV. "Far out, I just can't believe how well you did that," Natalie commented, interrupting my flawed logic. "Where did you learn?" "Well, I'm self-taught," Tom explained. "Just picked up some coding books one day and started to read. It's not that hard once you understand the language." He smiled. "Now, everybody scram discreetly. I'll try and clean up this operation, but we've already drawn enough attention." Natalie and I headed out after Reese. Reese bumped me on the way through the door, but thankfully neither of us exchanged words. We walked off into the rest of our recess. At lunchtime, Natalie and I returned to the computers. We'd agreed to do some research. "We should use the internet whilst we have access to it," she said to me during physics, "and see if we can find out anything about Seneva from it." "I've got internet access at home," I said, "and my sister can tell you all about the internet's opinion. It's not that great." "Well, I don't," Natalie retorted, whispering as we drew the attention of the teacher. "And you've probably taken a boy look? Let me do some searching." We walked swiftly to the library, tucked our sandwiches into our clothing, and logged into one of the furthest computers. I opened Internet Explorer before Natalie pushed me aside and took command of the keyboard. She directed the buzzing, boiling circuits of Windows 98 towards Yahoo and wrote in the search bar, "Seneva." She hit enter. "That's totally a boy look. That's what I would have done," I protested. She stuck her tongue out at me and waited for it to load. I set a piece of paper and pencil in front of me while the browser loaded and started drawing. Only one result pinged into the fresh screen. It was fairysmogblog.org. "One result," Natalie remarked. "And what do you know, that is the site that my sister goes on." I smugly grinned. "Told you that's all we'd find." "Okay, fine. It's still worth the exploration," Natalie said. She clicked on the page. It opened into an image board layout. There were multiple threads visible on the first page, and a lot of room to scroll down. Along the top, there were links to hosted boards, paranormal, ghosts, demons, communism, alt-left, progressive opinion, women's rights, Seneva. Down the left were some of the other page categories. We were on the discussion forum, but there was also Fairy Smog's blog and writers' blogs. I took control of the mouse. "Hey!" Natalie protested. I clicked on the writers' blogs links and was taken to a page with a few streams of text split by columns. On the leftmost column was an article dated to the 2nd of February 1998 by user Simone23. "See, I told you this is the place where Simone visits. That's her blog." I pointed to the username. "Yeah, that's great," Natalie said, "but I don't think that a daily blog will help us. I saw a link before that said Seneva. Let's look at that." She stole the mouse from under my hand and clicked on the link in the top right of the screen. There was another minute of load time, in which I got a little further into my drawing, until the Seneva image board came up. There was a paragraph of text titled "Board Sticky, Read Me First," which took up most of the screen. Under that, there was a picture of a weapon on a table, taken with an offensive level of camera flash, and with one comment next to it. The sticky read, "Welcome to fairysmog.org/Seneva. Here we discuss sightings, meetings, attitudes, and all things Seneva. We absolutely do not encourage anybody to find Seneva in real life. Seneva are dangerous by nature. They eject energy on a scale of terawatts, able to turn your body from flesh into gas. They tout high morals, but very rarely show them. Seneva have proven to be arrogant, condescending, racist, and vigilant in discussion. They very rarely see the harm that they do to others through their intimidation. Be warned and stay safe. Fairy Smog." Natalie scrolled down as I was finishing the last line. In the center of the browser now was the first thread, the one with the bad photograph. The first comment said, "Found this. What is it?" And there was a reply. "Seneva weapon. Do not touch, or it could shred your hands. Or do, that'd be funnier. Post pics." "Gee, this doesn't seem so innocent," I said. "Did you read the level of vitriol on that sticky note?" "It's bullshit," Natalie said confidently. "I don't believe it. I won't base my opinion on some ghost hunting political activists." Inside I fumed. Natalie might have known something about political activism, but I had my haunting experience. I wasn't so readily able to throw aside somebody's opinion based on their belief in the paranormal. "Well, they sure seem to have more experience than we do," I noted. "As if," Natalie let the notion slide. "These people rake forums all day. They probably live in their mum's basements." She closed the browser, stopping me from reading anything further. "Let's not worry about this. I think we need to follow your lead." Don't throw these people's opinions aside so easily," I said, passing her off this time. "They're all saying the same thing." "Single-minded groups have circular knowledge spread, James," she said bluntly. "One idea exists, and soon they all follow it. Outsiders get shunned. That's how in-groups work. I wouldn't take the word too seriously." "Fair enough," I muttered to myself. I guess she was right. "What about what we saw in the alley, then? I'd say it verifies our in-group." "You can't pin the actions of a few on the attitudes of many, James. That's just bigoted logic." "Well, you're full of good points, aren't you?" I smirked. I didn't know how to rebut that. "Look, based on my Yamit Says book, there's more history to the Seneva than some modern gang fighting. I don't believe that we're putting ourselves in danger. They seem more like hippies from what I've read." "Hippies? Really?" I chuckled. "You'll have to show me what you read." "That'll be next, after we follow your lead," she smiled. "Right, I remembered my lead. The Kovalik guy and Mr. Finnick to get to him." "That's the one," she said. "I'm in if you are." "Well, you can count me in," I smiled back to her.
Now, despite the overall positive theme of this week's assembly, I do have some serious trouble for one student.
Mr. Dempsey, the principal of Leslie Grammar, spoke. His voice turned coarse as he pretended to sound angry, like a man choking on his own vocal cords and whatever wisps of hair sat upon his head.
We've had a very serious incident where our IT systems were compromised by a student and grade values were altered. We all know it was a student, and if they do not come forward to us in the next 10 minutes, all of you will lose access to the computers this term.
There was a resounding wail and moan amongst everybody in the senior school assembly. Mr. Dempsey, a small yet commanding and incredibly politically incorrect man, stood with his disapproving gaze. He eyed the crowd, but specifically lingered on Tom, David, Natalie, and myself, who sat next to each other. Against all good judgments, the force of disapproval got to me, and my eyes widened with guilt as he glared over us. Other students continued to mumble. "We didn't do it," one student said loudly. "Why the hell do we get punished?" The question was left unanswered. Mr. Dempsey continued to gloss over the room smugly. "I think I have to stand," Tom said to me. "He has to know I did it. I can't let everyone down." "You sure, dude? I can't imagine what level of shit you'll get in." "I kept my receipt with Reese," he said. "I made him sign a contract. He's coming down with this sinking ship. Don't you worry." "Dude, really? We can all take this punishment for you." "That's selfish and stupid," Tom said. He handed me his jumper and songbook so he could stand. In the other corner of the room, on the raised section of seats, Reese Cameron stood up. There was a gasp from the audience. Mr. Dempsey himself was taken by surprise.
"Reese?"
he questioned in genuine astonishment. "It was James Gray," Reese pointed down to me. "I saw him do it." All eyes in the room turned to me. "What?" I burst, not standing. I craned myself around to face Reese. That's... Tom stood up. "I did it," Tom said. "Reese paid me to change his grades. He was too dumb to make the footy team."
"Hey, what the hell?"
Reese shouted down from his podium. Tom shrugged back at him. "James can barely log onto a computer, let alone write code. I hacked the system." Tom wore a smug, satisfied grin. He put his hands on his hips and absorbed the silent accolade of his peers for his programming abilities. I turned back to look at the very angry Reese Cameron. He was not at all happy with Tom and I.
"Tom Corey and Reese Cameron, the two of you will come with me to my office immediately after the assembly. Is that understood?"
Tom saluted the principal, and then took his seat again. Reese begrudgingly nodded and depressed into his chair. Natalie, David, and I waited for Tom outside the principal's office. We took up all of the chairs by his door, sitting in silence in an attempt to eavesdrop. Feet shuffled and footsteps came to the door. We quickly jostled into position to pretend to be talking instead of listening. The door opened and the two IT techs came out, followed by Tom. Tom closed the door behind himself. Reese was not let out just yet. "How was it, man?" David asked. "I don't know how you fessed up to that. Mr. Dempsey's a scary man."
"It was fine,"
he said, putting his hands on his hips. "Nothing gets good old Tom Corey down." "So what's the verdict? Suspension?" David asked. "Nah, just detention," Tom smiled. "I made a deal. They could have my code to see where they went wrong and fix the system. And for this, I'd just get detention." "What about Reese?" I asked. "Oh, he's in deep shit," Tom chuckled. "He hired me to do it. He's not playing any football this season." "Oh, that is so satisfying," I squealed. "But, hey, if you gave him your hack, does that mean you'll never be able to get back into the system?" Tom slowly grinned. He looked the whole way up and down, and even though it was empty, still ushered us off the chairs and walked away. Once we were a fair distance from the office, and totally silent, he pulled out his disc pouch from his bag. "You don't think I'm prepared for that, James? Then you underestimate me." He pulled out the floppy disk he'd inserted into the computer earlier. A good magician never reveals his tricks. In fact, this magician just gave them the wrong code so he could implant more ways to bypass their system. But this time, they'll never detect me. His grin was enormous. He slotted the floppy disk away in its pouch and swung his bag back around onto his back. "You're a genius, man," David said. "Tell me something I don't know, dude." Tom winked. We all walked off together to get lunch.